Hi, this is Russell Stanhope from teachertrainingvideos.com. We're going to look at security in Zoom today. This is specifically really for teachers because I'm going to look at the settings that are most important in education. And what we're trying to do is stop Zoom bombing. Now, Zoom bombing is where people come on into your Zoom room and then they begin to show pornography or explicit pictures. They begin to write nasty things in the chat, and they might even, if they've got audio access, they might even speak over the audio. And there's basically three ways we can stop this. A, we can stop them getting in the room. B, we can control them when they're in the room so they haven't easily got access to screen share and to audio and to the chat. And finally, we can kick them out of the room. And I'm going to show you all the settings that will allow you to do those three things. Hope the video is useful, specifically for teachers working in education. And as always, if you like the video, please like it. Please share it with other teachers. Really important at the moment, especially this particular topic. And if you really like what you see, please comment, ask me any questions, and join me on my YouTube channel. Let's get started. Now, the first thing I'm going to focus on is the waiting room. If we put the students in a waiting room, when you open up your Zoom, no one will be in there, and then you can let those people in. I'm going to show you how you do that. Let's quickly go through setting up and using the waiting room. Okay, so I'm in the, obviously where you log in and create your rooms. I'm going to come down to settings. Make sure that you are full screen. And the only reason for that is because then you have this extra navigation that quickly allows you to jump down this page. Because actually where we want to go is to, in this whole big long list, and you can just scroll through it, but we want to go down to the advanced ones. And when we come down to the advanced ones, if you just scroll down a little bit further, you will see that you can create a waiting room. Now, very quickly, all participants, that means all your students will be in a waiting room until you let them in. And I'm going to show you how you do that. Guests speak participants only. That is, if you've got an account where you've got other people all connected to the same account, often that happens if you're a school or you're a big organization, then only people from outside the account needs to wait in the waiting room. The standard people who are all connected to your account will come straight in. That's entirely up to you, because generally I'm not doing that. I'm normally working with students who are logging in to my class, but are not on my account, and I use this button here. So because I've got the students set up to be waiting in the waiting room, I can now see that Tom is already waiting for me. And if you notice, I can roll over and admit him by clicking on this button here. So setting up the waiting room is a really good way of working if you've got a fairly small number of students in your class. The trouble is, if you've got a really big class, you're going to have to go through every individual, but it will help you to make sure that you only let people into your classroom that you want. Another thing that's really important is tell people to sign in with their correct name, because this really helps you to know who they are. A lot of teachers ask me, what do the students see while they're waiting in the waiting room? Well, that is what they see. And as soon as you click on enter, they will enter the room. Now, most Zoom bombing takes place in the screen share, because people can suddenly share their screen and share pornography, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to show you how you can control that. But I want to point out very quickly, I've been watching a lot of the videos on YouTube, and some of them on the security are brilliant, but one or two of them have just got it wrong about how you can control the screen share. So I just want to point out that you can control the screen share in the settings, but really importantly, you can also control the screen share during the session. The best way to control screen sharing is to set it before you even create a room. So in your general settings, and this will therefore apply to every room that you create, come down again, make sure you log into your account, come down to settings, go full screen, because if you go full screen, you get these extra buttons that just, all they do is allow you to quickly navigate to different parts of that big list, because it's such a big list. But we're actually looking in the basic part, or just scroll down. It's exactly the same. You can just scroll down if you don't see that button on the left hand side. And the one that you want to look at is the one that allows you to screen share. And if we come down here, we can see it here. Now, I want to point something out. The best way to start is only hosts can screen share, and save that. That is the setting that you've got right from the start. So every time you create a room now, only you can screen share. However, the important thing is you can override that, and let me show you how. So one of the most important ways to stop Zoom bombing is the screen share, because if people can't screen share, they can't really Zoom bomb. Of course, they can still say things through the audio, but if we click here on the side, what we can do is go to advanced settings and we can set it to only host. And that means only the host can screen share now, and it wouldn't be possible for any of the participants to suddenly take over the screen and show pornographic images, etc. Now, the problem is with this is that when you're doing a lesson and you want to put your students into breakout rooms, you need them to screen share because they want to share PowerPoint slides and pictures and things from the web. So what you do is click on the button here, go to advanced settings and reset it to all participants. Then you can put them into breakout rooms. When the breakout rooms are finished, click here again, just click here and turn that off. Now, what actually happens, and I'm going to quickly show you what Tom sees. This button will still exist for Tom, but when he clicks on it, if only the host can screen share, you'll see that it says screen share disabled. So again, let's just have a quick look at what that looks like for Tom, the student. You notice he clicks on screen share and notice he cannot access the screen share because it's been disabled. Now, it is possible to remove someone from an actual meeting. I'm going to show you how, but there is a useful setting linked to that. So click again down to settings. So again, on the opening page, go onto your settings and just scroll down. And this is actually the final setting before you come to the advanced settings. Allow remove participants to rejoin, and I would suggest that you don't have that on. So if you kick someone out of the actual class, then they can't rejoin. Now let's have a look at how you actually remove someone from a class. Now you can remove any participant that's in your room. Just come over to that participant's name, click on more, and notice that you have the option here to remove. Now, as long as you've set the setting that when you remove someone, they can't come back into the room, then you're safe because you've kicked them out, and of course they can't log in. The only problem is, of course, they could try and log in with a different name and using a different email, etc. But that does mean that you can get them out of the class. Now we're going to look at passwords. Zoom does work with passwords, but please, one thing to always keep in mind, never share your invitation to your link publicly, because of course if you do that, then you're making it open for anyone. So you want to be sending it via an email, you want to be sharing it on an intranet system so that only people who have access to that system can actually log in. What you don't want is to put something public, then of course anybody can join. But let's have a look now at password settings. Now, there's been quite a lot of confusion about passwords. I've spent a lot of yesterday reading this out and testing it, and I think I've got this right. If we scroll down again in the settings on the opening page, if we come down here and we've got now require a password when scheduling new meetings. So in other words, that a password will be generated when scheduling a meeting, and participants will require to use the password. However, if you have this clicked as well, embed password in meeting link for one-click join. If you do that, and that means that basically when you send out the invitation, the password is also included in that invitation, and the students will not actually need to put the password in. It will be automatic. If you turn that off, then they will. Now you may ask yourself, well, why then have the password? Well, the thing is that there may be other ways that people are going to access your meeting. For example, if they have the Zoom client, the Zoom app on their computer, or they're accessing through a mobile, smartphone, etc. So people will access the meeting in different ways, and therefore they will require a password. So if we've got that set to on, so that is enabled, and let's just make this absolutely clear, and then we come up to the meetings and we schedule a meeting. So I'm just going to schedule a meeting. I'll leave everything the same, so I'm just going to click on save, and notice that when I click on copy invitation, this invitation will include the password to actually access the room. So in theory, when you copy this invitation, most people will be able to click on that link and come straight into the room. They'll go straight into the waiting room. They won't need to add the password, but please note that the password is here if required, okay, to be added into the invitation. If you're running a big meeting, it's a good idea to co-host. You can make more than one person a host. All you need to do is, again, coming down to settings, the famous settings, scroll down. I think it's in the basic ones. If we come down a little way, I think we're going to find it. There it is. And that will allow you to promote somebody from being a participant to being a co-host. And all you need to do is to go over their names in the participants list and click on more, and you'll see promote to co-host. So I can see that Tom's in the room. I'm going to roll over here. Again, I can click on more, and notice now I have the option to make him a co-host in the room. So the problem of Zoom bombing is normally associated with people using the screen share and screen sharing pornography, etc. The audio is where people have obviously been abusive to the whole group or to individual or to the whole group. And the other thing that sometimes happens is in the chat window. Now, people are able, if we don't set the correct setting, to chat to each other individually, and that can be another reason where abuse can be taking place. And I'm going to show you how you can stop that happening. Now, just coming back to the settings again regarding chat, if you come down into the settings, and again, it's fairly near the top, one that I would definitely set as an overall setting is to turn this off, private chat, allow meeting participants to send meeting messages to each other. I turn that off so that the only person that they can chat with actually is the host. You will have noticed also that at the moment Zoom has disabled the option to share files. There's obviously some type of security vulnerability there, so that has now been disabled. If you click here, you'll notice that you can chat to individuals or you can chat to everyone. So you can have everyone publicly. You can notice that this is a really important setting. It's a good idea not to allow individuals to be able to chat with other individuals in the room, but rather keep everything public, and you have that option here. So there's no file share anymore, but you do have this chat option to everyone publicly, and that's probably the best setting to have as far as the chat's concerned. Now, another layer of protection that you can give yourself at the beginning, this might be slightly difficult when you're working with young learners because you probably want them to come on the screen and be able to talk straight from the start. Not such a problem with adults, and I often do this. I don't set the audio as on until I see how many people are going to be in the room and decide whether we're going to use the audio or not. You can come down to the settings, and there's a couple of interesting things here. But first of all, if you notice right at the top, it's one of the early settings. If you just scroll down a little bit, you'll be able to mute participants upon entry. And my feeling is that's probably, in most cases, a good idea to do. Again, screen sharing is going to have, Zoom bombing, but then also people can be abusive orally as well. So it may be a good idea that you mute participants upon entry. Of course, you can unmute them at any time, and we'll quickly go through that. So that's another setting that I would consider. Remember, these general settings will be the same for every room that you create, but when you click on your meeting to schedule a new meeting, you can override some of those settings. And if you come down, you'll notice that one of them that you can override is this mute participants on entry. So you might have it as a general setting, but then in specific meetings where you know who you're going to be talking to, for example, you may want to turn that off. Don't forget though, whatever happens when you come into the room, you have other options to mute the sound as well. So once you're in the room, if you want to unmute everyone, you just simply click here, and if you want to mute everyone, you simply click here. Remember, as I did point out to you earlier, it's probably a good idea to turn that off so that if you do unmute people, they can't if you do mute people, they can't unmute themselves again. Just one final point there. When your students are when you mute everybody, you can go over the list of people in the participants and unmute individuals, and you may want to do that, and sometimes that's a really good idea. They can write in the chat window when they want to speak, and then you can unmute them and let them speak, or if you're doing an activity and you want to choose a specific person to speak, then you can do that. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about is the webcam. And my advice would be not to have the webcam on necessarily for the students when they start a class. It also slows down quite significantly the ability for Zoom to work and for it to not, for example, freeze. Webcam take up quite a lot of bandwidth. So generally I don't put them on. The problem is when you're working with young learners, they really do want to have their webcams on from the beginning, and that is an issue, and that's the reason why having a waiting room is a good idea, because you can control the people as they come into the room, and you can turn the webcams on in the actual meeting. So we can set it as off here, and in fact when we just go to start a meeting, so if we actually schedule a meeting, we get another opportunity to in fact control the webcam. So here, for example, I'm going to have the webcam on for the host but not for the participants, and we can also do the same for the audio. We can mute the audio, for example, of the participants if we want to do that. And then actually when you come into the meeting, if you roll over a participant, you can activate or offer them the opportunity to turn their webcam on. When you do that, you're inviting a student to turn on their webcam, but they would still need to actually turn it on themselves. It's not automatic. You can't control your students' webcams from your Zoom. You can invite them to turn on their webcam, but then they would need to click on the button to actually activate it. Okay, I really hope that video was useful. Obviously, a lot of people are asking me, should I change to another system? Most of the systems are very similar. That is, they have encryption at one end, then they have this part in the middle, this where everything goes to the server, and then it all gets sent off to the students or whatever. And there's encryption at both ends, but not in the middle. So these systems aren't massively different, in all honesty. Where perhaps Zoom has made a mistake is that they try to make the process of logging in, setting up everything, and connecting with people as easy as possible. And perhaps they made it too simple. Now it looks like they're making changes. Hopefully it will deal with this problem, because there's something like 200 million people now using Zoom. There are alternatives. I use a few of them myself. I like Adobe Connect. I have a Click meeting room that I use for my webinars, but I don't think necessarily that Zoom is particularly bad. I just think they need to sort out these issues. They may have to make it a little bit more difficult for us to connect together. We might need to use a password or authentication, etc. We'll see what happens over the next few days, but certainly at the moment the advice I've given you there, that would really help you if you're doing something in education and you want to protect your students. If you're looking for more free videos, please come to teachertrainingvideos.com. I've got a special section on Zoom that you might find useful. If you want to follow my work, then please sign up to my newsletter. That way you get updated with all the new videos, the blogs, the webinars, the online courses that we're running. And finally, if you want, you can follow me on my YouTube channel. It's getting quite popular now. I think we're up to something like 20,000 followers. And thank you very much.